Hey everybody, this is part 2 of my videos how to start seeds, and I just wanted to start with it's important to know what zone you live in, and you can just Google like USDA hardiness zone to get a better idea if you're unsure. I'm in 3B up here in central northern Minnesota. But it's important to know that because you need to know what kind of plants will grow in your area. Some zones aren't going to be, the growing season's not going to be long enough to grow what you want to grow. So I would make sure you look at that. Sometimes the seeds packages will give you this, for example. Let's see if it'll focus. So if you look at Minnesota, it says to transplant May through June. That's pretty broad time frame. Here where I'm at, we can get frost up until like the 31st of May, and so you kind of need to know when your last frost date is, so you're not transplanting. We're certainly not starting seeds too early, because if they get too big, you need to be able to bring them outside, and if you plant them too early and then a frost comes through and kills them all, you're going to be very sad. So I can put a link in the description for the USDA hardiness zone, so I would say start with there when you're trying to decide how to start with this whole process, which I promise is a lot of fun. So another tip I have for when you're trying to decide what to start for seeds, pick what you like. A lot of people get excited to garden, which I think is awesome, but they maybe will pick things that they're not even going to eat, maybe because they look pretty. Like, I think eggplant is beautiful and purple and I love it, but I don't eat eggplant, so it doesn't really make sense to grow that. None of my family eats eggplants and I have no one to give it to. So start with things that you like, and I would check, you're going to get a lot of information off the actual seed packets. So for instance, I like Seed Saver Exchange. They're a local company out of Iowa. They sell a lot of heirloom seeds, but you can get a lot of information off the packet. One thing I wanted to make note, so this says sell by 10/31/19. There's a misconception that you can't grow old seeds, but depending on how you keep them, if you keep them in cold temps, not extreme heat, you can grow them for years past their best by sell date, whatever, pack date. Their germination rate might decrease, but I just plant extra, so instead of like putting 2 seeds in a hole, I'll put 3 or 4 depending on how old they are. But I've been able to grow seeds that are 5-6 years old. I have a hard time letting seeds go. There are a few exceptions, like onion seeds. Those do not germinate well after even just like a year or 2. Another tip with what the seed packets show, every seed packet's a little bit different, but they all have the same basic information. So for example, these are Italian heirloom tomatoes. They are delicious, by the way, if you're looking for a good tomato. The Seed Saver Exchange puts the, like with the heirloom varieties, they'll put the history of like where the tomato was from on there. But important things for you to know. So you're going to get tomatoes 70 to 80 days from transplant. And it tells you right on here, start indoors 6 weeks before last frost. So that's where knowing your last frost date comes in, why that is important. It's going to show you how deep to sow your seeds, which just means putting them in the soil. Most of them are usually about 1/4 inch deep. There are some that are deeper, but you want to make sure you take note of how deep to plant the seed. If you plant them too deep, they might not ever come up, because some seeds need it dark to germinate. Germination rate, that just means in 7 to 14 days you should see something start to sprout. And it seems like tomatoes get excited about sprouting, and usually you can see a germination rate. I I barely have to wait 7 days even. If you're starting them with like a heat mat and in warm enough temps, you can see them start to pop out of the soil even like at day 3. Very exciting. And just to show you, these are just some burpee. I got them from Menards, jalapenos. But each seed packet's a little different. Like this one has that map. This one, peppers take a lot longer to germinate, so this shows 10 to 21 days. Again, the depth of 1/4 inch deep. So I just have set up here just a standard tray, and I talked about kind of what to pick, or how to pick your growing medium in the last part 1 of the series. And it's already, I've just loosely packed it with pre-moistened soil. And I mentioned in the last one, I just take a bucket. I love Menards, obviously. I shop there a lot. And so I pre-moisten it in the bucket, because I find if you put it in here and then try to wet it, it's just a bigger mess, and especially if you're trying to wet it after you already put seeds in, it just pushes the seeds way too far down in the soil and they're not going to germinate. So like I said, I just put the seed starter in here, mix it with soil, and then I kind of lightly pack it and level it into the trays. And then really there's not much. You open it up. Some of the seeds are a lot smaller than others, so sometimes I will just put some on like a white piece of paper. It just makes it easier to kind of keep track of them, especially if they're black. These are not black, but because they are easy to lose, but sometimes I'll just take like 2 or 3. So these say like a depth of 1/4 inch. So I just kind of move a little soil, and then I'll just stick to your fingers. I always drop in like at least 2, just in case the first one doesn't come up, and then just kind of loosely cover it up. And that's it, you guys. Pretty simple. Depending on how long it takes me to fill a tray, I'll come back after I planted everything. Then I'll just mist it with one of these fine misters and just lightly mist it like that. Because you want them moist, but not too wet. Another tip I would have for planting, starting your own seeds, is kind of have a loose plan of what kind of space are you going to have. This is a tray that fits 50 plants, and they're really cute when they come up, but they get big quick. And so if you kind of know what your garden size will be or how many pots you're going to put out, that's very helpful. Otherwise you might not have room, because it's very exciting to start seeds and you might have big ambitions and then come to find out when they all grow up that you don't have room for them all. But you could be a good friend and give them away. My last tip that I would have for actually starting these seeds is when you're picking what to put in the tray, like, come up with a good system to label it. I just write, well, you can't see it, but I write tray 3, and then I number them this way. And then I keep track on a sheet. This is my 2020 tray 3, and then I'll write the name of everything that I plant. And even that's not foolproof, you lose track. My only other tip that I would have for picking seeds is to put similar germination rates in the same tray. So we looked at these tomatoes, and germination was only 7 to 14 days. On the other hand, peppers are 10 to 21, and that's going to become an issue if you have half tomatoes, half peppers, because when you plant these, you cover them. And you're going to keep this cover on to keep the seeds from drying out so they can start. But as soon as they sprout out, you want to put lights on them. So if you have half of these sprouted in a week and these don't sprout for another week, you're going to run into a problem. Anyways, that's all I have for part 2 of how to start seeds. Part 3, we can talk more about what actually to do when they sprout. But get planting. Have fun. Thank you. Bye.